How's it going, guys? TFF back here with a new series, Studs and Duds, and this is coming after the Week 1 NFL games, which just ended last night. In this series, I'll be going through 3 studs of the week and 3 duds of the week. Starting off with the 3 studs, at number 3, I have Darren Waller. Darren Waller received so many targets last night in the game between the Oakland Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens. He was pretty much the only option that the Oakland Raiders had, or sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders had on and the night, especially against a stiff Baltimore defense. I think he received almost 20 looks, got the ball thrown to him. He didn't catch all of them. He caught more than 50% of them, scored a touchdown, had lots of big receptions, looked like he was getting double teamed a fair amount of the time. So it was definitely a very, very impressive performance. I thought he had a great game. I thought he was a focal point of the offense, and I do think he's going to have a great season. Maybe not as much as Kelsey, but I think he'll be a surefire second best tight end in the league. The next stud I'm going to speak to you about is Chandler Jones. He came off a 5 sack performance. That's right, 5 sack performance against the Tennessee Titans. It was an absolute dominant performance by the Arizona Cardinals, and Chandler Jones looked unstoppable for large portions of that game. He looked incredible getting off the block, swimming defenders, bull rushing them. Didn't matter which move that he went to. The Titans O line had almost no response for him. They were moving him around the line a little bit, but mostly he was operating from that one position. He was just having his day with the Tennessee Titans offensive line. And if he can do something like that, I think he's a shoo-in for Defensive Player of the Year if he can continue playing like that. Obviously, one stud that I should mention is Kyler Murray, but I actually just mentioned him and spoke about him in my last video on the MVP rankings. So I'm going to pivot to another player, and that's Jalen Ramsey. He had a little bit of a quiet performance on the stat sheet, but he was absolutely fantastic. Instead of playing him out wide, the Rams played him kind of in the slot cornerback position, and he was incredible in that position, locking up Allen Robinson, holding him to very, very few receptions, looking great, coming downhill, aggressive tackling, made a few tackles for loss, was stopping the run very well, and looked elite in coverage. We all know the skill that Jalen Ramsey has, and he was performing that from the outside, but inside in the slot cornerback position, he looked absolutely fantastic, and he definitely looked like the best cornerback in the league on that game. Although it was against the Bears, and Andy Dalton is not the best quarterback, I think what he showed personally was fantastic, and he had an all-around great game. Speaking about the duds, the first one is pretty obvious. It'd be Aaron Rodgers. He just did not look like himself. You can throw the whole Packers offense in there, but I'm singling out Aaron Rodgers as the reigning MVP of the last season. I think he had an absolute woeful performance. He did absolutely nothing in that game. He didn't look like himself at all. His QBR was horrendous. He didn't look like he was ever gonna change in that game. 0 for 7 on third downs. It was just a miserable game for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, and that's not what you expect out of your MVP caliber quarterback. Some may say he's just trying to force his way out. I think he's there in the long for the rest of the season easily. Maybe like one last dance. It was just an off game, but he was a big time dud this week. Another quarterback who was a dud was Josh Allen, and as a Bills fan, that hurts me to say. The offense didn't look lively. He was missing quite a few throws. He missed a deep ball to Emmanuel Sanders, which could have led to a touchdown, easily walk-in touchdown, and he overthrew him. He was also overthrowing Cole Beasley a few times towards the sideline. Yeah, there were some drops, but Josh Allen did not look like the last season Josh Allen. He looked a little bit like a few seasons ago, relying a lot on his legs instead of his arm. The mechanics still looked good. There were a few drops, but I don't think he performed anywhere close to what anybody's expecting against the Steelers defense, which is quite good. However, I think most people expect the Bills to kind of run over them. I think the spread was around 6.5 points going into the game, and I think that was fair coming in, but the Steelers really showed up, and Josh Allen and the Bills did not. The last stat I want to talk about is actually a coach, and that's Urban Meyer for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It looked like a complete mess. Firstly, he was facing the Houston Texans, who are not a very good team at all, with quarterback Tyrod Taylor at the helm, who's not a prolific thrower of the football by any means. And they made the Texans look like a fantastic team. On offense, the underutilization of James Robinson, who was one of the best talents, most exciting talents coming out of last season as a rookie, and he was splitting carries with Carlos Hyde, who I think ended up with the game with more touches than him, which is absolutely crazy to think of that Urban Meyer is not using his younger talent. Of course, Travis Etienne has went down with an injury before the season started, but still, if you have a player of the caliber of James Robinson, how he performed last season, you should really be utilizing him to the best potential and feeding him the ball as often as possible. And that just didn't happen. Trevor Lawrence didn't look amazing. He looked okay. He was throwing pretty decently, touchdowns and whatnot, but he just did not look impressive, and I don't think that Urban Meyer really gave him much of a chance to succeed by not really establishing a decent enough run game with probably their best offensive weapon of last season, James Robinson. So I'm giving a dud to the Jacksonville Jaguars and specifically Urban Meyer last season. Thank you so much. TFF out. Like and subscribe.